Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation, and today we've got a special episode. We're going to talk about Australian rock or pop legends, Mental as Anything. I've got a couple of esteemed guests that are going to pick their favourite tracks from their albums 1979 to 1989. So welcome Stephen Schnee to the channel from the CD Junkie. Check it out. Welcome to the channel. And Bicyclelegs from the Bicyclegs channel. So what we will do is we'll pick one song each. We'll go round robin. And how about we take it away with you, Stephen? We'll start off with the first album from Mental as Anything, which was known in Australia as Get Wet. But in other parts of the world, I think it was self-titled Mental as Anything. So take it away.
Well, here's a funny thing about that album. I had both the Australian version and the British version of the album because it never came out in America. And the one of the versions, I believe it was the British version, which was just self-titled. There's a song called Love Is Not a Gift on the album. But on the British version, it was entitled Pork Is Not a Gift, which I just thought that was the strangest thing. But that's not the song I choose. I think I'm going to, normally I would really go for The Nips Are Getting Bigger because that's the big track on the album. But I think I'm going to go, it's probably going to be Business and Pleasure, which I just think is just a really, really fun song. It's a Reg song. And it actually, I think it's the only song that sort of reappears on a later album when they do a slow version on the Creatures of Leisure album. It's just really fun and jaunty and only marred slightly by Cameron Allen's production. I think Cameron Allen's production on that album is kind of flat, but still the songs are lively and wonderful. So I'm going to say Business and Pleasure. It's going to be my choice off of Get Wet.
Nice. Well, that album certainly had a bit of a splash in Australia. It went to number 19 in the charts, and The Nips Are Getting Bigger was a bit of a radio hit, had some pretty good success on the charts in Australia as well, number 16.
Two versions of
Nips Are Getting Bigger?
Yeah, the one that was on the Mental as Anything Play at Your Party EP, or
yeah, they are slightly different versions.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No worries. Bicyclegs.
Well, funnily enough, the original song I was going to pick was Business and Pleasure because, and it will be a recurring theme for me through this of picking Reg Mombassa songs because I am a huge Reg Mombassa fan. But speaking of which, that's my copy of the first album there. Since it's already been talked about, I will talk about another Reg Mombassa song on this album, which I think is a wonderful song. Was released as a single but didn't do very well, and that is Egypt. Really fun song. Great film clip too, with them sort of mucking around in the sand. And it's one of those few songs where you have a dual lead vocal between Reg and Martin Plaza, sort of singing. They're both singing the vocal at the same time in harmony. It's really nice. And it's got some tricky little time signature things going with it where, in the verses, it'll have 2 bars of 4/4 and then throw in a bar of 2/4 just to make it a little bit jumpy. It's a song I've always really, really liked. So that's the one I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Egypt.
Nice. Well, my pick to keep up the theme of Reg Mombassa is Can I Come Home? I like that song a lot. It's got that spiky new wave feel to it. It feels like it could be recorded on the Stiff record label. I love the lyrics. They're kind of cheeky Australian, plays up to the larrikin Aussie guy. He may be telling lies, but please forgive me. I love this really sort of funny lyric. I miss watching you pushing your old lawnmower. I miss telling you to push it a bit slower. Only Aussie band could come up with a lyric like that, but it's just cheeky, sort of larrikin type lyrics. And Reg Mombassa, I think his songs are very strong on this album.
Yeah.
And something that's sort of resonating with me in those early Mental as Anything. There's such an Elvis Costello, Steve Neve feel about it. Maybe it's Greedy's keyboard playing, but it's all prevalent. I don't know if you guys think. I think it could have slotted in seriously, seamlessly on that Stiff label, and all those sort of acts on that UK label around the 77 to 79.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason that Elvis Costello wanted to work with the band later on and ended up producing the I Didn't Mean to Be Mean single. He obviously heard that sort of thing as well. But it's funny you mentioned the sort of Aussie larrikinism, because of course Reg and Peter are actually transplanted Kiwis. But lawnmowers would be a recurring motif with this band.
Yes. And even their album covers, just Australian slice of life. When we get to Creatures of Leisure, you'll see, it's just stand in front of an Aussie house.
Yeah. See, I think it's interesting about the Mentals is you hear, there's not many bands have 4 very strong singer-songwriters in a band. And they all get a chance to shine. Now, Peter didn't get too much of a chance to shine on the first couple albums, but then he started, really blossoming. But it was so amazing because, you always knew that Greedy was going to come up with this kind of tune to zap you, and Reg was going to come up with something. And you always expected, like, Martin was kind of like the Elvis of the band. He was the cool guy. He was, in my, I think he's got one of the best voices of our generation. The music we listen to. He's an amazing, amazing vocalist. Nobody compares to him. But he always seemed to come off like really cool and like maybe the more serious member, right? But then on like Possible Theme for a future TV drama series, he's got lines like, here's one, it's going to make you cream, which I just think is like just funny because that's something that, me and my brother said when we were 12 years old, this is totally going to make you cream, And of course, we didn't know what it meant when we were 12 and 13. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. I've always thought that Martin was like the Roy Orbison. He's got that vocal tonality, and I'll talk more about it as we go through the selections, but he's got this glorious vibrato tonality. I know he's got the Elvis cool, but vocally, Orbison. That's why I've always related him to.
I'll agree.
Yeah. All right. So then we go to album number 2, Espresso Bongo, in 1980. So, Stephen, what's your pick off this album?
I guess we're going to go with the Reg theme. I'm going to go with Harmonic Visions, which to me is very anthemic, very sort of it. To me, that's a song that should open every live show. It's just this great, catchy song. Again, I think sort of let down a little bit by Cameron Allen's production. I get on that only because on the next album, their sound really opened up. But when you're hearing these albums for the first, you're not hearing this sort of flat sound. But with that being said, I think this is a strong record, but not as good as the first album. But Harmonic Visions to me is instant standout.
Nice. Look, a lot of Australian albums of that era were sort of hampered by sort of production limitations, whether it was by budgetary or not. But there's so many albums of that era that I'd just love to have remastered, and they're just sitting in the vault. And the Mentals and As Anything catalog desperately needs to be remastered. So come on, guys.
Absolutely.
Come on, it's Festival, isn't it? I think Festival Records. Open the vaults, please.
Demon might own them now.
Sorry?
Demon might own them now. Demon might own them now because Demon released the first 5 albums in the UK in a box set about 4 or 5 years ago.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Okay. Bicyclegs, what's your pick off this album?
Firstly, that cover. That photo, it looks like it was taken in the 1950s, and it's deliberately done that way. I think it's great. Yeah. Absolutely wonderful. The obvious choice to go for is Come Around on this album, but it's not the one I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for, I believe it's a Peter O'Doherty track, and it's The Girl. It's just a really, I don't know. I feel like this is the beginning of sort of the blossoming of Peter's songwriting, this song. And he's an underrated vocalist too. He doesn't get to sing as much on Mental's records as I think he should. But, thankfully I've been lucky enough to see Dog Trumpet in concert, and Reg and Peter share the vocals pretty much 50-50. Yeah, wonderful. Oh, that's the new one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have that one yet.
It's their best.
It's just a really wonderful, quirky, up-tempo Mental song. I really don't know how else to describe it, but that's going to be my choice. I'm going to go with The Girl.
Good stuff. But Come Around, I think it's got a catchy chorus. It's got that wonderful Steve Neve keyboard line that Greedy's playing up and down, and Martin Plaza is just resonating his wonderful Roy Orbison voice and that Elvis cool. So I think it's a great song, and that's my pick. Come Around. Not much more I can say, really. All right, so then we go to the third album, and I've got to fess up, guys. This is my favorite album of Mental as Anything. So Cats and Dogs, 1981, and this did super well in the Australian charts. Okay, Stephen, so what's your pick off Cats and Dogs?
Cats and Dogs. I'm going to have to go with the single, the big single, at least here in the US. It got played on karaoke and stuff. If You Leave Me, Can I Come Too? To me, it showcases both that fun, goofy spirit, the whole idea of if you leave me, can I come too? But gosh darn it, Martin sounds so earnest in his vocal delivery. He sounds like, he really, he sounds like he means every word that this is coming from his heart, but it's such a kind of a lighthearted song to begin with. And Cats and Dogs was not released in America. There was an album called If You Leave Me, Can I Come Too?, which remixed songs from Cats and Dogs and then took a couple songs off for the first album and remixed them. So we were introduced to them via this song. I got into them in 1979 with the first album, but most of America first heard of them with If You Leave Me, Can I Come Too?, the album and the single. It wasn't a hit in the charts, but like the new wave radio stations played it, and it's just a glorious slice of pop.
Do you have any recollections whether the video got played? Did you see it on TV?
The video got played. I believe that there's a couple different versions of the video. There's both the kind of like the live version where they're lip syncing it live on stage. But I remember the one where they're acting it out and they're, running down the street, chasing the girl at the end of the video. There was a show here called MV3 that played that a lot. And it was kind of like a 1 hour a week version of MTV. And then MTV played it as well. I don't remember if it was heavy rotation on MTV, but this is the album that I told people, if you love Squeeze and you love Nick Lowe's Side of Rock Pile, you're going to love Mental as Anything. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts as to why Mentals at that particular point in time probably didn't break bigger in America? Got any theories or any, like in America?
The only thing I can think of is just not enough promotion. That's the only, because their music is very, very, I'm not looking at this retroactively. I'm looking at it from where I was in 1982, 83. Their music was very much of its time. In terms of it fit totally with what was getting played on the radio, which was a wide variety of stuff. You got the synth pop, you got the power pop, you got the AOR, you got the country or whatever. So it fit right in the center of all that. And it should have been absolutely massive. I can see why the Jam didn't make it, with the heavy British accents and a lot of lyrics leaning towards things that were distinctly British. Whereas Mental's Anything was very universal in their music, in their lyrics, and I was just dumbfounded about them not breaking bigger over here. I did see them live.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. Bicycleleggs, what's your pick of cats and dogs?
This is a wonderful album. It's not quite my favorite Mentals album. We'll get to that one very shortly, but this is right up there. I could have picked anything on side one. Like, side one to me is just a perfect slice of Mentals pop. Just beginning to end, just perfect. But the song I'm going to go with is Berserk Warriors.
Oh, you cheeky man.
It was a single, but it wasn't as big a single as Too Many Times or If You Leave Me, Can I Come Too, which were both top 10 hits here. But again, I mean, Martin, you know, he sings the vocal so beautifully, despite the lyric being quite ridiculous. You know, this song about Vikings. You know, it's sort of almost like an ABBA pastiche, the lyric, you know, it's sort of like Bjorn and Anna and all this sort of thing. But it's a wonderful song, another Peter O'Doherty written song, but sung beautifully by Martin Plaza. And just catchy as hell. I mean, just incredible. And since, you know, Reg's tremolo guitar is just like wonderful on this song. Just absolutely adore it. So sorry to steal your thunder there, Peter, but
Steal the Viking thunder.
Yeah.
Well,
Gonna go with Berserk Warriors there.
I did want to add, just a month or two ago, it was pouring rain here, and I had some guy come out and he was cleaning off. He was like, you know, water spraying off of the deck, and he was Australian, or formerly Australian, you know, living in America. He saw this shirt, Mental as Anything, and he goes, Berserk Warriors. And that's the song that has stuck with him you know, he hasn't lived in Australia for 30 something years, but seeing this, it just immediately made him think of that song. That song has had a lasting impression on more than just us hardcore fans.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to go against the grain and say my selection is Berserk Warriors. No, it's you can't go past. I actually picked three, and they're the radio hits. So Too Many Times, great song. If You Leave Me, and Berserk Warriors. But Berserk Warriors is my pick, and it was actually sort of written and inspired by the marital travails of ABBA, because they were going through a divorce at that particular time. So that sort of inspired Pete to write this really witty song that sort of has the analogy of Vikings and throwing the whole marital woes of ABBA into the mix. So, yeah. And I've got to agree, Reg, I love it when he uses the tremolo arm. It's kind of like his trademark all the way through the catalogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard he is very, very, I mean, when you look at him on stage in the film clips, he comes across as kind of goofy and with a passing resemblance to an ex-Prime Minister, Bicyclelegs. But he is apparently very meticulous with his guitar. The rig, with his guitars, everything's got to be in the right place. I've heard this directly from a person that's worked with Mental as Anything. He is quite a perfectionist when it comes to the guitar work. But getting back to this Berserk Warriors, I think this it hit number 30 in the charts. It should have probably gone higher, but it's my favorite song of that album, which is probably my favorite.
Yeah, Walking on Rails and Chemical Travel would have been my other two choices, by the way.
Well, as I said, I could have picked anything on side one. Let's Cook, Got Hit. You know, I mean, Chemical Travel's great too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Berserk Warriors also appeared in an Aussie film that may have got a bit of a release in America called Animal Kingdom. And I think Jackie Weaver got nominated for a Best Supporting Oscar. I think that turned into a bit of a mini series. Not sure if you're familiar with that, Stephen. It's been in a number of soundtracks. And I know Let's Cook has been in sort of lots of commercials and theme
the
songs.
Wiggles did a version of it.
Yeah, the Wiggles did it too, yeah.
Yes. Alrighty. So then we go to 1983 with Creatures of Leisure. So, Stephen, what's your pick off this album?
I have to admit that up until today, I always thought that I preferred Cats and Dogs over Creatures of Leisure. But today I realized that I think I prefer Creatures of Leisure over Cats and Dogs. And even though I had done an interview with Mental as Anything back when Liar Liar Pence on Fire came out, and Greedy had referred to the album as just a rococo version of Cats and Dogs, which I have no idea what that means, but I don't think they thought of it very highly, or at least he didn't at that moment. But my pick, I had 4, and they're so tough to pick between them, but I'm going to pick Float Away.
Great song.
But no, Drinking Over Lips. Oh, no, okay, Drinking Over Lips. Okay, that'll be the song I pick. No, Float Away. No, Drinking Over Lips. I'll choose that.
All right. Can we lock it in?
Okay. Drinking Over Lips.
3, 2, 1, done.
All right. Okay.
No worries.
Just to me, this is such a joyous album. This is the second album where that full, as I stated before, squeeze meets rock pile sound. And again, I heard this and I thought, this was the second American album after the If You Leave Me, Can I Come Too album. And they mixed it around. Space to Let isn't on the American version. Not Enough is not on the American version. They added, and then they remixed, I think, a song or two, and then they added Working for the Man, and I think that's it. I think they added I Didn't Mean to Be Mean to If You Leave Me, Can I Come Too? But but such wonderful, just glorious pop music. I mean, I don't think of these guys as one of the best Australian pop bands. I just think of these guys as just one of the best pop bands. And this album is proof.
Yep. Thank you for that. Bicycleleggs, what's your pick on this one?
This is my favorite Mental as Anything album, and it has been since it came out. This was one of the first 4 or 5 albums I spent my own money on to buy as a 11, 12-year-old. I've been in love with this album ever since. I could do a favorite albums of all time show on my channel on this album easily. And whereas I could have picked any song on side 1 of Cats and Dogs, I literally could have picked any song on this album. To me, they are all perfect. But having to whittle it down to one, the song I've gone for is Country in the Concrete. Mm-hmm. It is fast and frenetic. It's got some incredible guitar from Reg on it, a great vocal from Reg on it too. And the lyrics, just this idea of, urbanization and just sort of, gentrification, just completely taking away the character of Australia is what the lyric is about. We don't need to go no further west than Bondi Junction. Bits of country from the rest are here in one form or another. And just for our non-Australian viewers who don't know Australian geography, Bondi Junction is in Sydney and it's right on the east coast. So to say we don't need to go any further west than that, is really saying something.
And it's sort of like an upper class, affluent type of suburb.
Yeah. But also the point being is it's almost as far east as you can get in Australia.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful track. It's just got so much energy. You get swept up along with the pace of the song. I mean, I literally could have picked any song on this album, though. I nearly went with Red to Green, but in the end, I've gone with Country in the Concrete.
Nice. Well, I wheedled it to 2 songs, and it was actually Red to Green and Spirit Got Lost. But I've gone up with Spirit Got Lost because it's such a whimsical, funny song. I love that lyric. My spirit got lost. Now something is missing. All the people around here are too bony for kissing. Love it. And I love the film clip, that stop motion sort of all these skeletons dancing around. It's like a combination of Ray Harryhausen meets Tim Burton before Tim Burton. You know, it's got panpipes, it's got humor, it's got clever stop motion, it's got a wonderful video and a cheeky Greedy Smith vocal line. It should have been a bigger hit. I think it was like the mid-range of the charts, top 30, but it was played on all the video shows at the time, and I just think it's just a lovely song. And the humor is so black, you know, like I woke up dead and all these people around me, and try to reconcile what's happening. Only they could pull this off.
I always loved that line. I was lying in bed when I woke up dead.
Exactly.
Like in the hands of a metal band, that'd be something a little bit darker, but you know, the metal is anything. It's just humorous. So no, nice. All right, moving along, we go to the I have to say the commercial peak of the Mental as Anything catalog, and we're talking about, as Peter just rolls it around, Fundamental as Anything, just the plain red cover, and you've got the band on the back. That's the same in America, I would assume, Stephen?
No, in America, you're familiar with the Mental's Anything Greatest Hits album, Volume 1, right? You know how they're coming through the paper? Yes. They actually they changed the color of the paper to red, and it has Mental's Anything coming through it. So it's that picture, but you know the paper surrounding them is red instead of yellow, and that's the cover of the American version.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Well,
this was 1985, and I think Australia was kind of the flavour of the month everywhere, especially in America, where you had Crocodile Dundee in excess for conquering the charts. Definitely sort of the flavour of the month, and this sort of album was riding the coattails. So, Stephen.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go with the obvious choice, only because, and I just have a very quick reason. I'm going to go with Live It Up, because it is one of the greatest pop singles of the era. It is such a glorious melody. And I used to make mixtapes. I tried to get the girls or just give them to my friends. I didn't want to get my friends. But when I would put Mental songs on it, you know, people sometimes would say stuff about it, but Live It Up was the song that everybody needed to know. Who does that band or who does that song? Who is that band? And then I actually got people to get into Mental's Anything because of that song. But to me, I love joy in music, and the melody in that song is it just hits all the right buttons. And still to this day, when I have my 80s shows, people still ask me, who does that song? You know, people over here, of course, people over there, no. But over here in America, it did nothing. Absolutely nothing.
That's a head scratch.
Exactly.
It went number 2 in England off the back of Crocodile Dundee, because there's a scene, I think they're in a party scene where it's background music. And just off that connection with Crocodile Dundee, it became a bit of a hit in the UK. But interesting, I thought it would have done a little bit better in America, because Crocodile Dundee was such an uber hit. It's strange. I like that song a lot. I think it's just a simple but direct song with a very just sweet vocal from Greedy. Nice pick. Bicyclegs, over to you.
I've got the Christmas version of this album, which came with a bonus 7-inch, which included Apocalypso.
Great song.
If I were allowed to include the bonus 7-inch, I would pick Apocalypso, because that song's incredible.
It is.
To me, I'm not as big a fan of this album as I am of the earlier stuff. I feel like it's just a little bit slick sounding in the production, and I don't like my Mentals to be slick. I like them a little edgier, a little rougher. I'm going to keep up the theme of going with Reg Mombassa songs, and I'm going to pick I Just Want to Be Happy.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, who doesn't want that? I mean, seriously, who doesn't want to be happy?
Mhm.
It's a great song. It's, to me, the song that most sort of calls back to the earlier Mental stuff on this album. So it was a pretty easy pick for me to go with that song. Not to say, I mean, Live It Up, yeah, it is a sweet, sweet song. And I did almost think of going with Surf and Mullen, Sex and Fun, just because that's, you know, a very naughty song for the Mentals to be doing. But no, I'm going to go with I Just Want to Be Happy.
Nice. That song, Surf and Mullen, Sex and Fun, that's got very high viewing rate on YouTube comparative to all the deeper cuts. So people seem to gravitate to that song on YouTube.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the rankings of all the songs that are off that album on YouTube, and that's very high. I have to agree with Bicycleleggs. I found this album a bit of a slog to get through. There is so many filler tracks, and this was a golden opportunity, I think, that could broken them internationally if they had some better songs on the album. There's way too much filler, and for me, the greedy vocal songs are the catchiest, and you can see why they were the singles. So therefore, I will go with You're So Strong. That was the first single off this album, I think. Yeah. And it's got a little bit of a funk, a little bit of R&B to it, and a bit of swing. And again, Greedy's vocals are very earnest and sincere, and I love it. So, and that was very much one of their in their song set. And when I saw the Mentals in the 90s, it was still very much in their song list as one of the tracks off this album. So, yeah, I'm going to go with You're So Strong.
You'd mentioned the production, and it was strange because the album was produced by Richard Gotterer, who produced like Blondie, the first Yachts album, and those things were like very tough. And those were a few years before. So when I saw that he had produced this album, even before I heard the album, I thought, okay, I was expecting something a little bit more raw. And then you're getting a lot of the, the Lindrum sounds and stuff like that. There could have been a lot of programmed drums on this, as far as I know. I love the album, but yes, it's missing that. It's not rooted in the earth per se. It doesn't sound like it has, both feet on the ground. It sounds like, I think, a batch of great songs that a little too clean, a little bit too produced.
Yeah. But I think it's their biggest selling album. It was definitely top 5 in Australia for 20, 30 weeks. Hit number 3 or number 2, but it's sold by the bucket load. But really, I think when I talk to people who talk about this album, they only really pick up on 3 or 4 tracks. They don't really talk about anything else. I don't think it's got the quality from top to bottom of the songs of, say, Cats and Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, beyond the 3 Greedy songs, I was really struggling to come up with something. But anyway, that's just my
I love
opinion.
Splashing and Stones of the Heart. Big Wheel is kind of a cool song. Doesn't sound like a great single. Great album track, weird single. But
yeah. All right. Then we move to another album that sounds very much of its time, and that's Mouth to Mouth from 1987. So, Stephen, what song did you come up with from this album?
The album opener, Don't Tell Me Now. It's super produced, but it's such a great, catchy song. Martin sounds wonderful. When Peter and Reg come in for the backing vocals, towards the end of the song, sort of the call and response type vocals. I think it's just a wonderful pop song. Maybe overproduced, but this would be the song that I think serves as a perfect gateway to this period of the band's career.
Okay, nice. Bicycleleggs.
Another great cover, got to be said. That's some lovely artwork.
Yep.
I believe Peter did the drawing, and Martin did the art, the lettering on that. So, and just to not spoil a almost perfect run, I'm going to go with "Stay at Home Girl." One of the, deep album cuts on this song album. Another Reg song, but it's just a really good, catchy song. I mean, I could have gone with the other one I was really thinking of, if I was going to go with one of the singles, was "He's Just No Good for You." I think that's a really, really great Greedy song. And I love the film clip for that, where they're walking down the street and they keep reappearing. And
it's one take.
It's one take. They had to keep running around behind the camera and then reappearing and so on as Greedy's walking down the street. But I think "Stay at Home Girl" just pips it for me as the best song on this album. But there's not a lot in it. I could have easily gone for "He's Just No Good for You" because it's a great track too. But "Stay at Home Girl."
Nice. One thing I've got to say, Mental as Anything had the best videos. I think they, of any Australian act, if you look at their videography collection, they are probably numero uno in my books. Just so inventive. The storylines, even the lower budget efforts, great videos.
That's what you get for a bunch of art school boys.
Absolutely.
The interesting thing about the videos is there was a best of Mental as Anything that came out 10, 15 years ago. And it came with a DVD.
Yeah.
Featuring their videos. And all it was is basically just a transfer of the VHS of the two different Mental as Anything video collections. They didn't remaster the sound or whatever, but still, it's such a wonderful thing to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
With all the things in between the song.
I find that very frustrating. And I've actually seen a lot of amateurs that actually remaster a lot of these clips themselves.
Yeah.
And put it on YouTube. They do their own technology and they actually put their own, boost the sound. So, look, again, that's another thing that needs to be done on Mental as Anything. It needs to be remembered, recorded, and put out there.
Yeah.
Mouth to Mouth, again, for me, I think is a album very much of its time. There's lots of reverb, a lot of gated drums. It's very much of 1987, the sounds of then, but don't really sound sort of current to the ears in 2023. I am going to go with the "He's Just No Good for You." I think it's one of Mental as Anything's greatest songs. It's an old-fashioned torch song for Greedy Smith. It's direct, it's honest, and just the most simple, honest, romantic, heartfelt lyrics. He just makes it sound so convincing. And for me, that should have been a much bigger hit. But I think in 1987, you could sort of sense the tide was turning a little bit in the Australian charts and musical tastes away from Mental as Anything. And it was you were starting to feel that it was the end of the run, because Mouth to Mouth, I think, only hit number 14 in the charts. It didn't sell anywhere near as many copies as Fundamental. And it was sort of the end of the road from that higher sort of chart success for Mental as Anything in Australia. But He's Just No Good for You is my pick from Mouth to Mouth.
In America, the album didn't include Ruby Baby, and they added Love Me Tender. And I've been told that there are versions of the album out there with what's Happiness is Right Inside, I'm Glad, or is that the name of it, off the album?
I'm Glad's a track off the album.
Yeah, I'm Glad. I've been told that there's a version of that with Peter singing, whereas the version I have, I have two different CDs of that. I actually have a German CD that they add remixes of Too Many Times and If You Leave Me Can I Come Too to this album.
Yeah,
which is
interesting. What's interesting you say about I'm Glad, because there's a version of I'm Glad, which is a B-side to Don't Tell Me Now, where Martin sings the vocal. So,
oh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So they all probably gave it a shot.
All right. We finish up in the 80s with Cyclone Raymond, 1989. So, Stephen, what's your pick off this?
Oh, this is a really tough one. You would think, I'm a huge lover of ballads. I think I'm going to have to go. I'm going to choose Big Things in Life. I'm not going to go with the obvious World Seems Difficult. I'm going to say Big Things in Life. Just a very big, boisterous. They stripped back, I think, some of that overproduction of the last album and added a little bit of the character from the earlier years. So still had the big production, but I think they were stepping back and they were sort of getting their feet back on the ground in terms of production. And I think this is a strong album. I think it's a better album than Mouth to Mouth.
Yeah,
overall.
I agree with you completely. I think it's a very underrated album.
Mm-hmm.
Bicyclegs, what do you think of Cyclone Raymond, and what's your pick off the album?
This is funny because we started off with the first album where Stephen and I basically picked the same song, and we're going to end with basically him and I picking the same song. I only have this on CD, funnily enough. I don't have this on vinyl, and I must correct that because, going back and listening to this is a better album for me than Mouth to Mouth or Fundamental. And I agree with Stephen about having a much better production. It's still a big production, but it's definitely a little bit grittier. It's much less slick. As I said earlier with Fundamental, I don't want slick Mental as Anything. I don't think that suits them well. But Big Things in Life was the song I was going to go for as well, for pretty much the same reasons that Stephen's already mentioned. I mean, it's just one of the best songs on the album. It's a great album opener too. You know, just for it to be the very first thing on the album, I think it sets the tone for the album really, really well. World Seems Difficult is a beautiful song, but it does not sound anything like a Mental as Anything song to me. That's why I couldn't pick it.
Very strange single pick, wasn't it?
But it did quite well, despite the album not doing well. So, I remember it getting heaps and heaps of airplay back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Big Things in Life.
Yeah, no, nice pick. I don't think The World Seems Difficult was a huge seller, but it did get a lot of radio airplay. But to me, it's a very unusual, out there sort of pick. It's not the most commercial song on the album. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
I think at that time, I was thinking it was going to be a U.S. hit. My whole way of thinking was, this, they kind of fashioned this. It sounds like it could get a lot of U.S. airplay. Again, it didn't. I should stop liking bands, and then they'll become successful.
You're the kiss of death, are you, Steve?
Yeah, yeah, that's what she said.
Oh, okay. Next episode, folks. Episode 2. All right, I'll finish up proceedings. My favorite song on this album is one of the best Martin Plaza vocals. He's in crooning mode, and that's Some Feelings. It's a wonderful ballad, builds up to a crescendo with the strings, a lot of drama, a lot of emotion, and he's really just putting out that Roy Orbison vibrato. It's wonderfully composed, and the production is so spick on this song. In fact, the production is really, really strong on this album. And I agree with Bicyclelegs. It's heads and shoulders above Mouth to Mouth and Fundamental. And this album should have done a lot better. But Some Feelings with Martin Plaza, I think that's my favorite Martin vocal.
On this album, I was going to choose Love Comes Running, World Seems Difficult. Of course, I ended with Big Things in Life, The Walls of the World, and Some Feelings. Some Feelings would have been my choice right after Big Things in Life.
Nice.
Amazing.
Well, thanks, guys. This has been fun. We've got to do this again. I think it was really good. We went through the 10 years of Mental as Anything across a number of albums, picked our favorite songs. Viewers, tell us what your favorite Mental as Anything albums are. And please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Please, see Stephen Schnee on CD Junkie. It's a great channel. Stephen's doing a little bit of. You want to put the album up? What's he showing?
I'm showing Dog Trumpet, Some Feelings. In fact, you can go to my channel and see an interview with Reg and Peter.
There you go. Check it out on CD Junkie.
It's a fantastic album.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Peter. And
Bicycleleggs, as always good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We will all get together and we'll do a show soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.